Alright guys, here we go again with another of our Evolution Consulting market update videos. This one being recorded on the 19th of August, about 10:30 in the morning, so during trading hours of what has already proven to be a very eventful opening to the U.S. domestic equities markets. And certainly, for those of you that have been watching the spot price of gold and silver, but specifically gold, yikes. For those of you still doubting as to whether or not there really is metals market manipulation, once again, we'll put it up in the edit, but please do take a look at the open of some of the ETFs that we called buy the dip on. Thankfully we did that because they've recovered so far quite nicely, and more importantly, never mind the ETFs, take a look at the spot price of gold. Okay, as you can see, we said August 2nd. There's something let go August 2nd. What that is at the very tippity top level, we're not going to speculate on, but there was definitively a shift in the balance of power, and that's looks like it's starting to compound with some of the information that we saw yesterday as well. But the desperation to repress the spot price of metals has become so stupidly obvious at this point that we're starting to see another pattern emerge, and it's something that we've kind of alluded to but haven't outright stated was going to happen, and that is something we call the backfire effect. Okay, there's going to come a point soon, and it looks like that point is right about now, where even folks that don't, okay, we'll call it the way it is. I'm on Twitter pretty much every single day providing, something of an intraday metals narrative. Either the ETFs or the spot prices are talking about precious metals investing. Okay, no, do I encourage to pay attention to the spot price because you want to buy gold low and sell it high? No, again, that's a whole different debate, and that really goes towards what we've said, which is convert paper into metal. It's more of a buy and hold 30, 60, 90 day kind of deal. But in terms of the intraday spot price analysis, we do that for a number of reasons, because we do know that there are some folks out there that like to intraday, or at the very least short-term swing trade, the metals ETFs. And you know what? We're all for that. Just please be mindful of your own investment situation, but certainly there is quite a bit of money to be made there. Okay, that's number one. But what we've seen in terms of an intraday or a shorter term kind of trend emerging, and possibly a longer term trend emerging as well, is that the manipulation and the repression of metals has largely been stuff that, dare I say, the so-called conspiracy theory news or the so-called fringe news crowd speaks about. Okay, and has for a number of years, and rightfully so. That's one of those issues where I give them a tremendous amount of credit. I agree with them pretty much 100%. Is that is the spot price of metals in the name of preserving fiat currencies? Does that happen? Duh, it would be my answer to that. Absolutely, yes, it does. But in order to understand the who, what, when, where, how behind that, you had to be kind of one of those fringe media guys, or you had to really be into economics, or you had to really be into geopolitics to understand the players and the who and the what and the when and the where. Okay, what's happening now? Okay, as the BRICS nations, speaking of being into geopolitics, as the BRICS nations start to push those spot prices higher, and again, that's a product of the Shanghai Gold Desk, the Shanghai Gold Exchange, excuse me. That's a product of now a City of London. The balance of power there is certainly shifted in favor of the BRICS nations, and ultimately the end game is going to be consolidating either the Chinese yuan and the Russian ruble, or all 130 some odd BRICS nations currencies into a gold standard, or a hard asset-backed standard. Now, whether or not the U.S. dollar goes that way, we're starting to see information suggesting that all Trump's got to do is open his mouth and make even a vague suggestion that that's the plan, and that's going to be another major upside run catalyst for gold. All right. However, slightly more important, there is, what we call the Occam's razor, if you will. Okay, and that is the line that the metals manipulators have to skate between trying to repress the spot valuations of metals, okay, and sort of making it look like, oh, that just must be the free market, versus, oh, it's just so glaringly obvious now, why do you even bother trying? Okay, and that's the line that was crossed based upon our analysis, I would say the last 2 or 3 days. We started to see the pattern emerge, and now it's like It's like it's right there, and that is, again, we'll put up the spot price in the edit as soon as we finish this. We'll take one of our screen caps. Okay, you can see what the spot price of metals looks like. And if you want to see the whole thing post after obviously we're done with this video, just go to AppMex or Bullion Vault or one of those sites. But the reality is, guys, based upon our analysis, the desperation to repress metals, all right, is starting to backfire, where it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but that updraft effect from people going, and I'm not talking about the fringe guys or guys that in the institutions that trade metals all day. I'm starting to talk about the average retail investor finally going, wait a minute, what are they trying to repress the spot valuations of metals for? And kind of figuring out what's going on. And anybody with half a brain in economics is going to go, man, if they're really trying to repress the spot valuation, that must mean they're trying to hide real supply and demand numbers. That must mean it's a fairly intelligent investment, okay? You don't need a degree from the Wharton School of Business to figure that out. All right, so the more that manipulation takes place now, the more obvious it becomes. The more likely a larger segment of the investing public is going to start to throw money at gold and silver. All right, and you can see, you want to talk about exciting trading, and again, please, especially after speaking with some of the folks from Evolution, some of our customers, please, 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 the intraday stuff is exciting, the swing trading stuff is exciting, but please do keep in mind, we're trading, when we talk about JNUG and NUGT, we're talking about a 3x leverage or a 3 times leverage ETF on a volatile commodity. You're going to get those 10% up and 10% down days. You're going to get those 20% up and 20% down days. It's going to happen. Okay? In terms of, a shorter term narrative, though, the moon and stars, so to speak, are starting to align with gold and silver. And I think more and more people, even at the institutional level, you got to remember, demonize the big banks all you want, guys, with the possible exception of algos and machine trading, they're made up of people too. All right? And as more and more of those trading desks and more of those people start to figure out what's happening, okay, you're going to see more upside for metals, which brings me to the real point of this video, which is exactly what is it that happened today. And the reason I've chosen to do yet another market update video, there's like 3 in 1 week, all right, it should give you an idea of the kind of information that we're seeing. There's a lot of it, all right, but something very unique happened today. This is based upon preliminary research. This is based upon initial analysis. But again, something I'm confident enough in opening my mouth and saying. Okay? And that is, if you paid attention to what happened right after the Fed minutes were released, there was, okay, a wild swing in the spot valuation. It was a wild swing on the ETF side. That was HFT trading, and that was actually the misinterpretation of some data by machine trading. It was. Okay, if you read the Fed minutes, okay, and you look at the way the market reacted, even I went, huh? Okay, the linguistic components, not just of the Evolution 4.0 system. That's probably the strongest suit or the strongest component of the system that we built amongst, the stuff that we're willing to talk about that it can do. There is the ability, or was, I should say, the ability to exploit the linguistic translation components, not only of machines like Evolution 4.0, but all the big bank algos as well. And I'll be the first to say that we do have, some lines of code from big bank algos in Evolution 4.0, heavily modified, but they're there. All right, and so those can be exploited, or up until recently. With the learning component, on the other hand, not so much. You only get away with it once. And what it looks like, if you woke up this morning and you saw gold down like $13, even I kind of went, yep, thesis proven. It is possible to get algos, and it is possible to get HFT if you deliberately mislead, manipulate the linguistics, okay, and you have to do it on a grand scale. Okay, you can get them to initiate a sell-off. You can get them to initiate sort of a human quasi, sell it all before a loss kind of reaction. The problem is, it's going to be very short term. Well, not the problem. The good news for metals investors, it's going to be very short term, and there's a compounding effect. You have to realize, you have to almost look at those algos now to the point they're at like living things. And I know it sounds a little, but the speed to which those things can learn at, the speed to which they can move the markets at is tremendous. And now, many debates have been had. I, on live radio, have talked about it before. Okay, is HFT good or is HFT bad? Good and bad, again, are human constructs. They're there. Deal with it. Okay, so the point of the story though is trying to trick an algo or trying to trick broad level HFT trading. You're going to get away with that exactly once, and then you're going to have to pay the penalty for doing it, big time. All right, and if you look at the spot prices of gold, you can see where it kind of went like dip, dip, down, 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 whack. Oh, wait, hang on, and right back up. Okay, so based upon my analysis, that was really kind of the end of the line for those trying to manipulate metals to the downside, where it's just like, well, maybe we can use the machines, to kind of help repress metals. And they got away with it once, but there's a penalty associated with that. All right, you only get away with that kind of stuff once. Once they learn the linguistics, that's it. All right, so keep in mind, guys, please, for those that are trading these double and these triple leveraged metals ETFs, again, be mindful of your own investment goals, please, 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 and thank you. All right, that's number one. Number two, something else I'd like to bring up is that long term. Okay, into what we've come to call the global economic reset, into what we've come to call the dollar implosion. Okay, we're coming up now on a series of catalysts based upon our linguistic research, where it's going to be like one right after the other. And those are the kind of gains, when we put up the gains on our website and they show, 10% in a day, 20% in 2 days, okay, on those metals ETFs, those are usually the product of a catalyst. Sometimes you get those for what we like to call no apparent reason, which is really just the SGE doing this, okay? But those are based around, and a lot of those intraday shorter term trades are based around catalyst events. They could be Fed minutes, they could be the Bank of Japan's announcement, they could be something like Brexit, for instance, and we've mentioned that before. But those are catalyst events that are going to drive metals higher, and they're going to do it, instantly. So you get that kind of speculative updraft effect, along with, yes, there's a valid reason for the spot price of metals to increase, which, mind you, are nowhere near what they should be at the moment, but that's another debate for another video. All right, so that being said, all right, for those of you that are intraday trading, all right, you see a down day where it's like 10%, you go, oh, it's the worst trade I've ever made in my life. It isn't, okay, because as quick as they go down, they come right back up. And if you look at the overall trend of what's going on, guys, just in the last year, gold and silver investing, even from a mainstream narrative, and I'm talking about your CNBCs, your Bloombergs, and stuff like that, it went from like a little 10-minute blurbit somewhere in the, in between like Power Lunch and Squawk Box or something like that, where they just made reference to it. Now it's a real subject. It's a real debate. It's a real metals investing and metals trading, specifically metals investing, has gone more mainstream. Okay, it's not just the G. Gordon Liddy commercial for, and I can't think of the name of the company he promotes, but it's not just what's in your safe. It's not that anymore. It's a real thing, if I can use an internet colloquialism. So, with that in mind, guys, there's going to be days like this. You got to remember, you're dealing with a manipulated commodity. Okay, but again, the good news is what we're seeing is that every time that happens, especially, that was creative, trying to use machine algos and linguistic manipulation to cause a downdraft on metals. And you know what? It worked for 2 hours. 3 hours, really, is what it came down to. Just be mindful of that, okay? If you see an 8%, you see a 10% loss like that, all right? Just keep in mind, and we encourage people, trade without emotion. Trade with logic and reason, all right? Emotion is often, as I've called it, the great irrationality of the human mind, and perhaps the greatest exploit, okay? So, development of the Evolution 4.0 system has been as much of an effort in self-improvement for the dev team that it has been, the design of the program. We trade without emotion here. We're thankful not to have any emotion. Took a while to get there, but we did. Nonetheless, when you're trading a manipulated commodity that is, predicated upon geopolitical events and a gazillion different variables, you're going to have days like this, okay? The idea is to just remember that, when in doubt, just think, well, gee, why is China and Russia hoarding tons of gold? Why are the BRICS nations, why do they even exist? Okay? Why are more and more nations moving away from the petrodollar? These are all long-term, major, top-level trend indicators that suggest metals are going to go higher. Does that mean every single day price action is going to be vertical into the green? No. Okay, because you have another faction, you have the Anglo-Western, or what's left of a system that's largely being obliterated. Okay, you're going to have them trying to preserve the fiat currency. And at this point, it's like standing in front of a train. Okay, you can kind of figure out what the results are going to be. It's the delay of the inevitable. And just like in evolution, I say if you need inspiration, look to nature. Getting in the way of evolution, no pun intended, by the way, getting in the way of evolution and getting in the way of the natural progression of systems to chaos is the word we use for it. And often that's used, the empire of chaos, like it's some horrible thing where it's bad. It's, oh, chaos is horrible. Chaos, in the real meaning of that word, is simply a system, be that economic, civilization, society, it could be anything. Okay? Maintaining a singular approach to self-sustainability and systemic optimization. That's what's happening, okay? And trying to get in the way of that and trying to stop that, it's standing in front of a speeding train is really what it comes down to, all right? Don't do that. All right, so that's why, I mean, there's plenty of people that can complain and say, oh, we need to go back to the way this was, that was, or the other thing. And it's like, I often wonder, I go, after Henry Ford built the first Model T, did he go back and go, damn, you know what, those horses and buggies were great? No. Okay, and I'm sure, in the 1800s, whatever inventions were made there, as soon as that invention was made and the quality of life as a result of said invention improved, people didn't go, this is great, but we need to go back to the way it was. And if you listen to a lot of the, and I don't want to point fingers, but I'm going to, the alt-right type stuff and the conservative type stuff, there are some things that you should go back to, like a gold-backed currency. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But in terms of the overall evolution of a system of economics to be globally inclusive and to be more streamlined, more efficient, and more fair, okay, as opposed to lots of currencies that can be easily manipulated and all that, we've said it a million times, to go to a system where there is a level playing field for global business that promotes peace and that promotes industrial development, guys, that's not a bad thing. And that is, at the very macro level, what's going on. So to understand that, and to understand that a metals-backed currency is going to be a very integral component of that system, all right, you can ask me, is JNUG good at 300 or 320 or 350? My answer is going to be yes. It's just like buying gold. People ask me, when is it a good time to buy gold? Right now. Well, the spot price is $10 higher today than it was yesterday. Should I wait? Nope. Just buy it. It's about purchasing power. Because in a year or two, guys, or maybe 3, somebody that sounds and looks a hell of a lot like me, because it will be me, is going to be making a smug face that might be about 15 minutes long. When the purchasing power of metals is finally established, when the purchasing power of a gold and silver system is finally established, I promise you, I am not ashamed to make a 15-minute long smug face. And you can call it arrogant, you can call it whatever you want, but we've been calling this since 2014. I know there are guys out there that have made a living out of the doom and gloom stuff, and the reason we've waited as long as we have to open our mouth is because the variables now and the players are in place, and just the system, you can kind of see the natural evolution taking place. All right, so that being said, guys, happy trading. Seriously, there's going to be days like today. It's why it's called trading. Okay, we've been thankful to be able to provide the narrative we have, and we're happy that we're able to help those that really understand what's going on prosper. I'm thankful for that every single day. I said the only thing better than having a system like Evolution 4.0 for me to trade stuff on is to help people that actually want to evolve, once again, no pun intended, and want to advance and want to be successful, to help them along as well. To me, that is about as win-win as it gets. So, that being said, guys, as always, be good. Everything is a transaction.